Charles, welcome to the new and improved international edition of Charles Ortel is Closing and 50% more free. Oh, well, not exactly. How are you, Charles?
I'm doing well, Jason. Thanks for accommodating my crazy travel schedule and
No
the
problem.
wild time difference. But I have this friend I don't know if he's still alive because he'd be approaching 100, who made a decades-long career trying to getting paid lots of money to explain what was going on in Washington, D.C. And one of his most important rules was to not be in Washington, D.C. He felt that people who lived in Washington, D.C. get too sucked in to the corruption and the swampiness to really perceive what is actually going on. And I have to say that I'm much farther away from Washington, D.C. than that man ever was. And in a zone where I'm generally awake while Washington, D.C. is asleep. And so I'm able to get some peace and quiet sorting through news reports and analysis and whatever that I don't think most people in Washington, D.C. can do in the same way. And it's just clear to me, crystal clear to me, that this joke candidate is a very bad joke. Nothing about her is authentic. She and her husband have gotten rich doing the bidding of the Chinese Communist Party. That's why she picked this idiot to be the vice president, or that's why somebody picked this idiot to be a vice presidential nominee. With the benefit of, as she likes to say, the passage of time, we need to go back and look at these BLM riots and remember that what was going on under Trump is that he had, or the U.S. likely had, encouraged the people in Hong Kong to come to the streets to protest what the communist Chinese were doing. Trump was very tough against communist China, raising tariffs, making fun of them, mocking them. And he was very effective, frankly, beating them back. So who benefits if Harris and this idiot get into power in the United States? Who benefits if Russia and the United States escalate into an actual real shooting war involving U.S. troops and Russian troops and maybe dread weapons? China benefits. And for how long has China been going in and wreaking havoc, buying prominent political families, starting with the Bush family? Let's not forget that George H.W. Bush cut his political teeth being a representative of the United States to the People's Republic before there was an embassy. And he's got decade.
He was the ambassador or
decades
something,
long.
wasn't he?
I think he wasn't technically the ambassador. I could be wrong on that because I don't think we had recognized. I think he was early there, but I may have that wrong. And it's crystal clear that the Chinese funneled money to the Clinton campaigns, starting with Bill's and likely with Hillary's. So this has been a long-standing pattern in practice, the Chinese communists, of realizing that they had to purchase influence and that our politicians, Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike, are susceptible to being purchased, and if not eager to being purchased. So here we have in Kamala and Walz, people who are unqualified to be dog and cat catchers in that town where the mayor just disappeared. I mean, these are incompetent idiots, dangerously incompetent fools who've now been crowned. Kamala did not win a single vote in any primary. Okay, suddenly she's the president. She's going to be the president. She was.
Wait, Charles,
if she
let me
has
stop
any
you a second.
national
Let me just
political,
pause you a second. Let me pause you a second, because we need to talk about this David Copperfield of mayors. How is she just disappearing? Nobody knows where she went? It's crazy.
Well, I mean, why is it crazy? That's the world we live in now, right? You've got an idiot running New York City. You've got an idiot running New York State. You got an idiot. Who is anyone running the country right now? I mean, Lloyd Austin,
No.
the disappearing Secretary of Defense, who I think I'll just check out and go to the hospital and not tell anybody, has just decided apparently on his own to move troops into the Middle East. Was there a discussion about that with Congress? I mean, this is an administration out of control. We have a president who cannot complete a sentence. He went down on Tuesday in New Orleans and he started barking like a seal and yelling that he was on a mission to cut cancer deaths in half by 2020. It's 2024, dude. What the hell are you talking about? I mean, he needs to be yanked from office. We need to. There should be not a. I like Jim Jordan, but not Jim Jordan writing letters. There needs to be an urgent investigation of for how long Kamala Harris and others have covered up the material fact that Joe Biden is a demented goon. Right? I mean, that's what the 25th Amendment's for. It's not like it's optional to remove somebody who's a demented goon. I mean, I forget when the 25th Amendment was drafted, but right now we have more I think we have the second highest number of nuclear weapons in the world, 5,000. I saw a report that Russia has 5,500. We're literally close to using them over a conflict that should have been avoided in the first part that I would argue Kamala Harris instigated, along with others. And we don't know who the president is. We don't know who's actually making policies or implementing national policies. And now we have this phantom candidate with, if it were possible to pick somebody worse than Kamala Harris, she did, or somebody did in this Walz guy. Peter Schweitzer has an amazing story out about how there are connections between Walz and the company, Chinese-allied company that is putting these police stations inside America and using Chinese-affiliated people to go after China critics. I mean, that's not what I signed up for.
Wow.
Right? And so you have to go back now. Well, you have to go back now and ask yourself, here's the man who thought the BLM riots were a good thing. His wife kept the doors of the governor's mansion open, the windows open, so she could smell the carnage. I mean, what reasonable person thought the BLM riots were a good thing? There is no such thing as BLM as a charity. Nobody's ever been able to explain where all this money actually went. The main BLM charity, there's a small amount of money declared in that was used to buy mansions and pay for security details and pay off, the standard Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson approach. There's no focus on the BLM riots, but, let's just jump off a cliff, destroy industry to make sure that Barack Obama's many beachfront mansions don't get overwhelmed by global warming. I mean, this is insanity, and people need to call a time out and start connecting some dots. Mainstream media is the epicenter of disinformation, misinformation, and what I like to call lies. If you want to be lied to, just pick up the New York Times, pick up the Washington Post, read Time Magazine, watch CNN. It is fantasy. It is a bunch of bullshit and lies, and that's why the subscriptions are dropping off. That's why write-offs in the billions are starting to happen. That's why no one's watching this bullshit. And that's why the people still mired in the land of bullshit are trying to sell us bullshit about Kamala Harris and this idiot Walz. The polls are not accurate. The real poll that takes place almost every second of the day is the poll that I just experienced in this country, where 10 days ago or 7 days ago, I forget which now, I'm not going to reveal the country, I bought a service, a taxi service to the airport, and the price was $400. It's not actually $400, but we'll say it's $400. Yesterday, when I signed up for the exact same service, it was $410. Okay,
Whoa.
That's pretty serious inflation in a week.
Why did that happen?
Because
it's just inflation there.
Yeah, inflation.
Wow.
And so the inflation that's going on is caused by meathead Biden, meathead Harris, and the minions in the press, most of whom cannot balance a checkbook. Right? Don't understand finance, don't understand economics. Our government is bloated beyond all reason because of Harris, because of Biden, because of Yellen, because of the Bush family and others in the Republican Party, Linda Graham. And government needs to be put on a crash diet, the kind of diet that Elon Musk put Twitter on. Government needs to be shrunk, particularly non-military government needs to be shrunk by at least 50%. We need to pay down
Charles,
our debt.
I think people want to hear your thoughts on Elon Musk getting down with Trump. He released a really funny meme today. Did you get to see that? They're dancing.
I did see that. Yeah. I didn't realize he released that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. He might have even made it.
Look,
He says haters will say this is AI, and it's a pretty funny video of Elon, obviously not Elon Musk and Trump, but it's funny.
actually, I think I know I've seen the underlying real video. It's two
I
very
agree.
good dancers.
Yeah, I think I've seen it too.
The
But
man
Charles,
and
what
the
do you think
woman.
about this? There really hasn't been a technology CEO, or really any CEO, except for maybe of a comedy club or a comedy show. People can like or dislike Elon Musk, but this is unusual behavior for a CEO at this level to just release jokes every day.
I think it's fantastic. I mean, I think we've been falling, this West Wing phenomenon that any administration is really run by selfless functionaries without senior titles who manage the process, and it doesn't matter who the president is because these people are so wise and selfless and caring and wonderful, and this idea that CEOs don't matter, that presidents don't matter. Has been sold to us. It's frankly sold to me in business school. It's all about the team. It's not about the leader, this kind of stuff. And the masses, particularly the many functionaries, in any company, there are more functionaries than there is a CEO by definition. They love that. It empowers the lower middle echelons of the entity. But it's been taken to a point now. I mean, we really need to go back now that we're in the middle of the Kamala show. We need to go back and ask ourselves, were the Obama years so wonderful? I mean, that's like gospel. It's like the first book in whatever the document is that has created the Obama as Messiah. It's not the Bible. It's some new set of documents. Book one, the Obama years were fantastic. The team saved us from Armageddon. Bullshit. I mean, you look at the numbers, government spending exploded under Obama, and government deficits exploded, government debt exploded. None of the miscreants, the real criminals who led us to the brink of disaster in 2008, none of those people went to prison. The leaders of the banks, the leaders of the big hedge funds, the big George Soros and other people none of them went to prison. Obamacare is a fiction. It is a boon to the insurance companies. That's all it is. We need to go back and radically restructure the way in which healthcare is administered in the United States of America. It is unbelievably expensive. I went through it with my father in 2023. He had excellent coverage. It's excellent insurance coverage, and he had fantastic access to doctors and hospitals. But I wouldn't say that his care was all that good at the end, and it certainly was expensive. And you look around the world, it's incredibly expensive. So then the trajectory in the private sector, forget the government sector, is overpaid. There are too many government workers doing too much damage to this and many other countries. In the private sector, the trajectory of incomes and jobs in the private sector and amongst sole proprietors is abysmal. It's been falling now under Biden, right? So the Obama prescription for the private sector is death. It's a Kevorkian approach to the private sector, and it reflects some of his big tells. When people were talking about the private sector, and with derision and scorn, Obama said, "The private sector didn't build that," as if the government is responsible for creating private sector jobs. I mean, the man Obama is a clueless narcissist who has been fed by fat cats, and who has whatever 100 million he may have. The fat cats have made trillions off of him. He is a punk. He's been punked by the fat cats, and they let him have this fake charity out there in Chicago and many other allied fake charities. And he goes from one congratulatory event to the next. Nobody's ever taken him down and said, "Listen, you were a failure as the first Black president of the United States. You failed all Americans, and especially Blacks. You think what's happened since his presidency, now with Claudine Gay and the scandal there at Harvard. People are winding down this DEI crap for good reason. And all credentials, frankly, it's not right that we're in this place. And I would argue it's Obama's fault. All credentials of minority groups are rightly under suspicion now, thanks to Claudine Gay, thanks to Barack Obama. And frankly, Donald Trump was right to question Barack Obama's actual accomplishments leading up to his getting the Senate seat and then the presidency. He was at dead right to ask that. And what has Barack Obama done since? Other than meddle in the economy. He's the first American president who decided after leaving the White House to stay in Washington, D.C. And very much, I would argue, with what?
He did a lot of paddleboarding.
No, but he stayed in Washington, D.C. He bought a home in a district. I'm not sure where it is. I think it's Kalorama. He bought another mansion in Washington, D.C., and for a time was living there with Valerie Jarrett and Michelle in the same house. What the hell was he doing? Where are the records of the Obama, the physical records of the Obama presidency? Where are they? Who has them? Are we sure those are actually the records? How many of them have been disappeared?
Charles, when's the last time you looked at this document? This is the actual long-form birth certificate here, archived on whitehouse.gov. I mean, you can just see, even in what they've published, that it's red for August-8th, 196, and then somehow this one is black. And that's not the only item of evidence that this is a forgery, but it's inexplicable how that would happen if this is a photograph of a document stamped with red ink in 1961. They'll say, oh, somebody went in there and corrected it. No, this is a forged digital document. I don't know what it tells us about Barack Obama's place of birth, but this is not real.
Well, wait, let me say another thing that's not real. I have spent more time in Kenya than Barack Obama. I've spent about 7 months there. I don't think he spent 7 months in Kenya.
Wasn't his grandfather part of the Maori uprising or something like that?
Mau. It was alleged that his grandfather was part of that. And there's a lot, but before we get into that stuff, Kenya achieved independence in 1963, right? I doubt that a birth certificate in 1961 would have described Kenya as Kenya, East Africa. It was still a colony or a protectorate of the United Kingdom. So I question the descriptor in that birth certificate. It says Kenya, East Africa. Show me another birth certificate from that time that would refer to Kenya as East Africa. So I honestly don't particularly care where the man was born. I care a lot more about understanding the arc of his life.
Just give us that piece again. So this is saying.
So you see, it says up in the top there. It says somewhere. It says Kenya, East Africa, in the middle there. It's very small print for me.
Oh yeah, there it is. Birthplace. Right. So you're saying in 1961. What would this have said?
It was a colony or protectorate of Britain. It wasn't an independent country. You can look it up. Just punch in Kenya.
No, I don't doubt what you're saying.
Please don't doubt me.
I don't doubt you. I'm just remarkable how stupid the people who made this are. I mean, this document reeks of being created in such a way, like, look at what's happening right now today, Charles, with Kamala Harris, and even the movie that we've selected for today. We've used The Truman Show once before in the past, but it was an alternate movie poster, and this just felt so appropriate for what is going on right now, where they just tell you on television that she's winning the polls and that people like her and that she's smart, but she's an absolute idiot. And what I'm getting at is, it seems to me, Charles, this birth certificate document is created in such a way that it is so obviously fake that the only way they get people to believe that it's real is by going on the news and saying anybody who doesn't believe this is a conspiracy theorist and a moron. But the second Barack Obama does something that they don't like, breaking news. CNN reveals that the Barack Obama certificate is fake and Donald Trump was right all along. If CNN put on the news or the New York Times said, breaking, we just discovered that this one is black and that Kenya was a protectorate in 1961 and Obama is a fraud, in a week, everybody would hate him. It's weird.
Right. Well, but you don't have to go that far. I mean, I mentioned before, and my stuff is in transit right now, so I don't have access to it. But whenever that idiot wrote a book, I bought it. And the book that came out after he left the White House, whatever book that was, I forget it was. It was a dark cover and his picture on the front of it. He specifically addresses the birth certificate issue. The Promised Land, not that it's like, I think it's that one on the left. Yeah. What's it called? Promised Land. Yeah. So in that book, he specifically addresses the birth certificate controversy. And he claims in this book, or whoever wrote the book claims, that he ordered his lawyers or whoever it was to go to Hawaii and make a physical copy of the birth certificate by taking the volume off the shelf. He uses words like that, and making a physical copy of it. That's what he says. Now, maybe he's lying in that book, but this is not a physical copy. That we don't need to. Nobody on earth believes that this is a physical copy. This is an electronic copy. And so if it's an electronic copy, why did you need to send the lawyer, one or more lawyers from Washington, D.C. out to Hawaii and back? They certainly didn't travel on AOC's train. They went.
What about that
first class
plane crash
with the
woman?
It's that woman. Yeah, but before we even get into that, it is undeniable that somebody reimbursed a law firm to send at least one lawyer a lot of miles, likely first class, all the fucking way out to Hawaii, spend time in a hotel room, to come back with something that could have been sent by email in the first place. Explain that to me. If we're that stupid, how pervasive is that attitude? Is that what we do on every aspect of government? When we don't have to travel, we immediately send 100 people first class to go retrieve something that we could have gotten by email?
Well, private jet normally.
This rat pack under Trump, when Trump would address the gaggle or worse, a press conference, they would question every aspect of what Trump said. But with this, it's like, oh, well, we can't look at this. I actually I'm not going to reveal who it is. When I was talking to Corsi about this, I looked into his evidence, and he made to be a very persuasive case. And I took it to a very famous person in the UK, and he just looked at me like I had, rabies, and was vomiting on it. I'm not going to entertain this. Frankly, I never want to speak to you again. I mean, what kind of reaction is that?
Over the birth certificate?
Yeah, this is a famous man. This is a very famous man who has a BBC show. I mean, and he's. If I said more about him, you figure out who it is. But
is it about smoking meth in Central Park?
No. We're talking a very famous guy. Multiple credentials, editor of this TV show or that. Big guy. And I met another one who died. Who was basically his approach was you question everything. But when it comes to this, we can't pop this bubble. We can't dive into how does somebody who went to a crappy school for rich kids in a private school in Hawaii, and the best he could do was get into Occidental College from there. How does somebody go from that life trajectory to being president of the Harvard Law Review? It doesn't happen by accident. Right? I can't see if this is the section that talks about the birth certificate, but is it, Jason? Or is this the preface?
Trying to get to that right now. But actually, Charles, we're kind of out of time. So I think I did just get the book here, and we're going to be able to look at that segment about the birth certificate, but we're going to have to do that in the First Amendment Forum. So if you're not already a sponsor, please join us. You can get onto odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or subscribestar.com, or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Huge thank you to everybody who's already sponsoring the show. We can take a look at what Barack Obama had to say about this fake birth certificate.